Right. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Right. So thank you again for joining this free online lesson. So my name is Nabi Fikri bin Shaizan, an application engineer from IK Systems. So for today's free online lesson, I would like to share you about the Fusion 360's milling manufacturing. Right. So basically, we're going to take a look at the CAM properties inside of Fusion, which is specifically for the milling sites. Right, so basically this is the agenda for today. So instead of Fusion, so Fusion will come with CAM inside. Right, so we're going to take a look on how we can set up our CAM milling. So the first thing is we're going to set up our raw materials, and then we're going to specify the cutting process. And during the cutting process, we also want to specify and select the tools and also the settings for the particular process. And then we also need to take a look at some editing stuff that we can do later on. And lastly, we're going to generate the post process. Right, so let me show you the Fusion. Right, so basically what I have here is the Fusion models. We have this block over here, so which is what we are going to cut it into these pieces, into the shape over here. And we also have an extra clamp over here just to specify and see there may some obstacles during the cutting process here. So basically this clamp here. So this is on the design environment. So to change into the millings, you can go ahead and drop down the design, and then you can select manufacture. So this will open up the CAM properties for the Fusion. So at the top of here, we have several other tools that we can use, whether it's milling machines or turning machines. But for this case, we're going to use the milling. And the first things that I would like to do here is to set up the raw materials for the block over here. So from here, I can just simply right away selecting the setups. And the first thing is that you will see we have this yellow block over here. So this represents the raw materials that came in, and we're going to cut this yellow raw material here into a shape of our model here. So when we include the assembly file, including this CAM up here, so usually we don't want to include this CAM. So you can select the model under the setup here. Right, so if you only have one, so this one you can just ignore, but since we have assemblies and there are certain models that not required, then you can just select model here and just specify only this item that we want. Right, so if I have others, I can just select and it will include that one as well. Or you can also go into the model here, and then you can just turn off the bodies required. But for this case, I'm just going to leave it as on. Right, on the setup here, I'm going to select the model, which is this one. And the next thing is I need to specify the orientation and also the origin point, which is what we see over here. So this will represent our starting point or the origin position, the tools machining. So the first thing is I need to make sure that my orientation is set up Z direction is pointing upwards. So for the orientation here, I'm going to select the Z axis so that I can specify the Z direction, which is this one. Or I can also select the axis that we have over here, so it will automatically change upwards. So for the X and Y should be quite good. Okay, so at the top, it will be positive while it will be negative downwards. Same with the X, left will be negative and right will be positive. So if I somehow need to change or flip, I can just click at the arrow head here. It will flip that direction. Right, so next things that I would like to specify is the position or the coordinate. So this is the origin points that I need to set up. So I can select whether I want to select this on the models or the stock box. For this case, I'm just going to leave it as stock box. And I have this point here. I'm going to select as this point, so this will be the starting point of my cutting process. So the next things that I might want to take a look here is the raw material, the block here. So to specify this raw material or the stock, so we can go to the stock panel here, and then I can specify how I would like my stock to show or to come in, whether it's fixed size box where I can specify manually the size of this block, or I want to make it a relative size to the object here. So relative size object, and I have this side offset here. So if everything is set to 0, so it will be the exact size of this model here. But usually when you come in with the raw materials, you would have some additional settings from here. And I would also have some excessive raw material down here. So that will be the stock offset. So let's say around 2 or maybe let's say 4. Right. So this is will be where the clamp will be folding. So other than that, I can just press OK, and then I have this setup ready to apply. So I have the setups, and then I can start to add the cutting process for this mini. So for the start off, I can start with the face, which is where we will use it to cut at the top of the face here. But I also would like to show the, so I also like to select the tools. So the tools, you can go into the manage here. Then we have this tool library here that we can select from here. Right. So when you apply the face, you can also select the tool from here. But if you want to set up your tools previously, you can just go to the tools library here, and then you can start to set up your tools early on. But for this case, I'm going to select the face, and then I'm going to select the tools from here. So currently I have a few type of tools that I can use from here. So the face is where we want to cut at the top of this face here to make it flat. So currently we have flat end mills. Some of these mills can be used. So if you want to add some more, you want to create a new one, you can also click at the new tools over here, and then you can specify what type of tools that you want to add. For this case, I don't have face mill yet, so I want to use face mills instead. So I'm going to select face mill. From here, I have the general descriptions that I can input over here. So I want to edit my tool settings. So for that case, I can go to the cutter, and then this will be the presentation of my cutter head here. So if I want to change the size, I have this geometry here. So if I click here, it will show you this diameter is actually at these positions. Shaft diameter is actually at this area here. So what I want to do here, maybe 50 is a bit too much. I'm gonna reduce it to 25. So I have something like this. So the actual representation will be something like this. So the shaft is obviously quite large. So I'm going to reduce the shaft diameter here into, let's say, around 15 millimeters instead. So I have something like this. So other than that, I can just leave it aside. So if I need to change the shaft as well, I can also create the shaft from here. But for this case, I'm just going to leave it as is. Right. So same goes with the holder here as well. So I'm going to click accept. So I have this face mill selected. Going to select. So and then I can identify this is the tools that I'm currently use for this face. So I have this feed and speed here that I can adjust the settings, make it spin a lot more faster or slower. So I recommend for you to check at the tools provider here, the one who provide the tools here. So I believe they should know what is the right speed for you to use, right? So maybe if it's too fast, then this could potentially break your tools here, right? So it's always a good idea to find the tools provider and seek their recommendation feed speed here. So for this case, I'm just going to leave it as is. So we also have several other things such as geometry. So this is where we can specify area that we want to cut. But for the face mill, it's automatically select at the stop here. So I don't need to select the face that I need to cut. And the rest we will take a look at later on, such as height, pass, and so on. So for this case, I'm just going to leave it as okay. And automatically it'll generate the cutting toolpath from here. So I can select this face that I can put here, then I see that it's creating the cutting toolpath here. So if I want to see what actually happened at my first process, which is the face cut, so I can right click at the face here, I can select simulate, and what it gives me here is the simulate tools. So if I want to see my tools, I can just turn on. So if I would like to make my tools non-transparent, so I can just turn off the transparent, or maybe I want to see the cutting process, or I can just leave it as transparent. So when I click play, then you should be able to see the cutting path that is actually used to cut. Right, so if I want to see the toolpath, I can just turn on the toolpath, then you will see the cutting directions, cutting movements. I can specify the link or the delete. So for this case, I'm just gonna leave it as on. Other things I also would like to see the cutting process of the stock or the raw material here. So I can just turn on the raw materials. So when I hit play, then you will see, let me just slow down a bit. Then you will see this is the cutting process that has actually been done on my first process. Right? So there are different type of way for you to see. So we have different type of things, maybe materials. So if you have different process, you can select different operation, or if you want to see whether the cutting process has actually have some clashes or not, so then you can use the comparison as well. So for this case, I'm just going to leave it as a comparison and the simulate here, so I can just turn off and we can go to another process here. So the next process that I would like to do here is to remove the inside face here. So we have 3 different face. So next one, I can use the adaptive clearings. So alternatively, if you drop down here, we have several other type of cutting process that you can choose. So adaptive clearings is where it will slowly cut downwards, and if you see here, it will cut using a method of fish scale. So let me just show you first when I click the clearing. So first thing is, so I'm still using the same tools. I would like to select different tools. Let me just select different tools from here. For this case, I'm going to select a flat end. Right, so flat end around 0.62 inch. Right, and then to select, I can just simply select pocket from here, and it will select and show the area that you have selected. So you can select the face, you can also select the edge. For this case, I will be choosing the face here. And I can select OK. And then what you see here is creating the cutting process from the inside here. Right. So what this adaptive clearing here essentially does is creating this circular path right over here. Now, if you're using different type of cutting process such as 2D pocket, so it will create a straight lines, right? So that one will be much faster. But for the adaptive clearing, it makes sure to fully utilize your tools here. So there are a lot of area that we'll be covering when you're using the adaptive clearing. So let me just show you another example of the cutting. So let me just simulate. So you can see it's slowly cut inside. And then from the inside here, it's rolling, cutting, and make sure to use most of this surface for the tools here. So your tools will be much longer to sustain, right? Right, so that is the first process. So other things that you may see here is that once the cutting process has been done, we actually have some leftover over here. So the green here under the simulate here is the comparison. So the green here is the actual solid models that we would like for our end product. So the blue here is still a leftover of the raw materials. So what happened here is because the first process that we choose here is the adaptive clearing, where we would like to want to have roughing operations. Right. So if I edit back my tools here, so I can go back to my passes here. So I have this stop to leave. So it will leave some extra area over here that we can proceed later on if we want to do a clearing finishing process. Right. So basically the first one is using a roughing operation only. So the next operation is for finishing at the side here. So I can start to proceed and select 2D pocket. So for this case, there will be empty area inside. So I no longer need to use the adaptive clearing. So I can just proceed with the 2D pocket. So it will become much faster. So when I click OK over here, so I can click here. So it still leaves us this area inside. Right. So see here. Right. So you can go back and edit these tools. I can select the passes and I can just leave it to turn off the stop to leave. So when, like so you see here now, it will cut according to what you want to see. But comparison to this one, so this will finish up all these excessive materials from here. So other things that I might want to edit here is the tools in here, right? So if I edit back the operation, so if I try to simulate back, okay, let me just slow down a little bit. So we have cut at the top, so we just here. So currently we cut the roughing operations. So once the cutting operation has been done, now is the finishing part. Now you see here it's actually cutting the air here. It's basically cutting nothing. So we want to avoid that. We want these tools to just straight away go inside without this cutting air here. So for that case, I can right click and edit back at my pocket here, and I can go to the link. So link is where you can specify the properties of your tool movement, which is not directly contact with your materials. So this is basically the linking settings that you can choose from here. So the one that I want is the ramp here. So the ramp here, instead of helix, I want to plunge directly downwards. So when I click OK, now it become much faster. So it will just directly go inside and it will cut directly everything inside here. Now, if you see here, we also have a distance between one to another. Now, if I want to make it a smaller distance, so basically more cutting, so I can edit my passes here. All right, so I can change my maximum step over here. Now, let's say I'm going to reduce it into 1. So I will have more area that has been covered. But since this is a finishing process, most of the material has already been removed. So I'm just going to speed up the finishing process and just give it as, say, around 4 millimeters. Right, so that is for the pocket inside. So now we want to select at the outside as well, to cut outside here. So the next step I can use is the same things, so adaptive clearings, because I need to remove this area inside here as well. Right, so if there are no area inside here, I can just drag away using the 2D contour. But since there are large area that I need to remove, so I can use these adaptive clearings here. Right, so the clearings. For this case, I cannot just directly select at the bottom here. Right, so this one should be correct, but we have this inside here that will basically cut our materials here. So if I take a look, at my simulate here. So it's basically it's going to overcut my object here, right? So basically it's already removing my excessive material. Right, so you see the red here, right? So the red is what we don't want to see. So I'm going to edit back my my processing. Oops, sorry. So this is the tool settings. So I click my tools. So I'm still selecting the same tools, but I would like to select a different area to cut. So I'm going to remove this one. I'm going to select at the top here. But if I just directly set it as a top, it will only cut directly at the top and it will not go down here. So this is where we can use the height setting here to specify the cutting height of our tools. So the one that we want to see here, so we have different heights, retract height, stop height, and so on. In this case, we want to cut up until to the bottom here. So the bottom here that I need to choose. And I'm going to select as a, so whether it's model bottom or the stock bottom. So the stock one is the setup here, the yellow box here. So obviously not the stock here because it will clash with our plan. So I'm going to select the model bottom. You should be able to see it, but for some reason it does not show. We just move. All right. So now you can see it's shown here instead of stock bottom. Okay, model bottom. But we also want to make it lower than this, with slightly lower before reaching the clamp. So I can use this offset area. Say I'm gonna put say -2. Right, so -2 obviously a bit too much. It's -1, -0.8, right, or maybe 0.5. Right, so it will now cut until below. So if I were to simulate that, now you see it is now until here. Let me just check back my tools here. Yeah. I think this is right only. Okay, so the bottom height. So the next thing is once we have cut this one, we want to also removing this excessive material here. Stop to leave. So contour where I want to cut basically inside here without moving around this area here. So that is where the contour can be used. So you can select the contour here. All right, so for the height, same again, I'm going to select the bottom height to model bottom, and that will be -5 millimeter. Right, so let me check back. For the stop to leave, all right, so it's already unchecked, so I can just leave it as this. So other things, I think this one I can just leave it. Right, so no worries about this. So it should already remove. So let me just check back. So I'm going to simulate everything from here. Okay, I'm not sure where this one coming from. Okay, so I believe I accidentally select up until to the bottom. So that one would have reached my clamp here. So let me just edit back. So my height is actually from the model bottom. All right, so it's already overcut. So it should be 0.5 actually. Right, so that one has been done. So next thing is I would like to also cut for the hole here. So I can use drilling. But let's say if I need to make some adjustment, maybe there are chamfer around this area. So I can go back ahead to the design tabs. Maybe I would like to add some chamfer. I can select at this area here, make it say around 0.05. Okay, I think this is a bit too much, 0.01. Right. So if I go back to my manufacturer, so you will see that we have some problem here because our process has been, our model has been changed. So what you can do here is that you can just right click and regenerate back. So if there are no problems, it should be okay. But for the adaptive one and the contour one, we're actually selecting at the edge here, which the edge already been missing. So we might need to edit back and selecting the new edge here, right? So it will be okay already. So instead of doing that, other things that you can do from here. So let me just undo back. So, okay, right. So for this case, let me just regenerate back. So instead of redoing back the process, so I'm going to leave this as this process here. So I'm going to lock that. So what I can do here is that I can just right click and I can select protect. So here is where it's going to make sure anything happens to this model, it's going to stay at this cutting path here. So the cutting path will remain the same. So I can go back to my design, maybe add some chamfer, 0.01. Then go back to my manufacturer so I don't need to regenerate back. So the things that I've done before is being saved right here. It's being locked. Now I can just start to add some new cutting process, so maybe another 2D contour, and I can select different tools which have some engraving. Right, so we have some angle here. Right, so again, that type of tool can be selected. Then I'm going to select this area. Right, so it's going to cut at this particular. So zip cutting. So I'm not sure if it's cut. Let me just edit back my properties. So I accidentally leave it as flat. So let me just click this one and select. Right, so now it will be cut at this area. Right, so now it's the drilling part. So I can use drills. Right, so maybe I need to choose the same tools, which is the one that I chose before. And for this case, you can just simply select the face area here. And since I have 3 more face, which the same diameter, so I can select same diameters, automatically apply to the rest of the diameters. Right, so moving forward to the next process. So you can add another drill. For this drill, I might want to use an actual drill. So it will be cut up until the side. And I can select at the area inside here. Same again, select diameter. And lastly, I have this straight face here. So I might want to use the tab here. Right, so the tab here is where the one that we actually use to create let me just edit tools. Right, so to create a thread here for the screw here. Right, so basically that is for the tab. So I'm going to choose the tab. So another thing that I forgot to mention is that when you use the drills, you have a different cycle that you can select from here. For example, drilling rapid outs. So I have this drill here, this two here is using the rapid out. So for my tapping here, I might want to use different type of cycles for the tapping. So maybe right tappings. So if you're not sure what type of cycle that you need to use, you can just hover your mouse and leave it, and it's going to give you the list of type of cycles. Right, so maybe tappings, maybe chip breakings, drillings. So you can just specify and just read it from. Right, so this same goes with the other type of settings such as the feed and speed. So you can just leave your mouse. So it will specify what this actually does, and you can just input the value that required. So you can just put okay. Okay, I forgot to put the space here. Select the diameter, and now I can simulate the overall process from here. Right, so okay, let me just do. Right, so cutting from the tops, and then cutting from the inside here, and then for finishing inside, and then for the cutting for the outside here, and then finishing for the outside as well. So several other things. Yeah, I probably haven't saved this one. So this reason why, because yeah, I think I haven't saved it. But never mind. But so we have this red here indicate that it's overcut, but this is actually a tapping, so it should have overcut something like this. But usually everything should be okay already. So I can go ahead and generate a process. So to generate a process for the first setup, so I can just right click and select the post process from here. And this is where you can select your machine configurations. So to select your type of machine, so currently I only have 2. So you can select choose from library. And then you can select Fusion 360 library from here. It's going to show you the list of machines that you can choose. So for this case, I'm going to filter up for the milling only. And I can select what type of vendor that I want to use for this milling machine process. Right, so maybe Hayden, for example. So I can select, and I can specify the location. So which is I'm going to put it under locals. Right, so locals, select, copy post, and now I have the new mill that I've selected. Right, or maybe I just want to use the HSS. And then we have this program number that you can input here, and several settings that you can input for your process G code here as well. So I'm going to select post, and then it's going to generate the post process G code here. So this is the cutting path for the coordinate here. So this is the one that I need to send into my CNC machine for the cutting process. So we already cut at the top here. So when I go back to my simulate, so up until to the end here, so this will be the final process. So I still have some leftover, which is actually at the back here. Right, so if I do it correctly, it should be somewhere. Okay, I think I already logged, so let me just leave it as this. So to create another setup, so all you can do is that you can just create another setup from here. So we can generate and redo back the same process at the bottom here. For this case, I might not want to see this clamp here, so I'm going to remove the clamp. And then you can select the setup from here as well. Same again, border rotations, going to select for the Z-axis, which is this locations. Maybe I need to flip for the X. And then I need to specify my stop points. Same again, I select from here. So other types of the setting is basically the same that we've done before. Body, which is this one. And then I can continue to add another process, maybe for the face mills, this face here. So I'm going to use for my face mill, or maybe I'm just going to use this flat mill. Top height must not be below the height. Okay. Right. So top height, bottom height. So bottom height should be model top. Okay, I'm not sure why. Okay, I think my setup is right already. So instead, maybe I just select for relative side box instead. Fill. Right, so it is right. And then I can select piecemeal. Okay, I think my tools that's not saved before, so probably that's the reason why. So select, so it should be correct already. So when I press OK, so this is my cutting path that I'm using milling tools instead of face mill. So the things I also have the excessive material here, so which I can just simply use the 2D contour here, and I can select the right tools from here as well. This one. Same again, for this case, I'm just selecting at the top and then just specify the height, mainly from here, say around -2. Right, so it should be model top. Right, so when I press OK, now I have my process here. So if I want to generate this simulate, I can just simulate this one. But for this case, I want to see the overall process. So I can just simulate for the overall setup here. So, oops, too fast. Okay, so this will be the first process here. Once we have done on the tab, then it will cut at the bottom next. Right, so basically this is how we cut. Right, so actually we still have some leftover from here. Right, so basically that is the idea on how you use the milling manufacturing inside of Fusion System. Right, so that is pretty much the presentation from me. So thank you everyone for joining. So I hope I can see you guys again on our next freelance lesson. So have a nice day and bye-bye.